for giving me the opportunity to speak on this important issue this evening. Cancora, I believe that we need to bring about a situation where beef farmers have a fixed share of the price paid by supermarket customers for that beef product. There's a lot of anger being expressed by farmers around the country at the moment regarding cattle specifications and also the difference between the supermarket price and the factory gate price. And we need to see transparency in relation to this. The price margins that are operating right across the beef chain need to be transparent and clear, and we also need a robust mechanism to be put in place to ensure that farmers get a fair share of the final retail price for their animal. The fact is that the further the animal goes from the farm gate, the less information is made available on price. That is why beef price transparency right across the supply chain must be addressed in the context of securing a fixed but fair proportion of the final price for beef farmers. Minister, the agreement between the meat industry and farm organisations that you secured at the weekend does provide a basis to start the rebalancing of power within the beef sector. But we need to see movement on the base price for beef from the meat processors. The fact is that there is a serious lack of trust on farmers' behalf, and there is a feeling that the base price will now be manipulated by the meat processors to make up for concessions agreed in the talks over the weekend. This cannot be allowed to happen if there is going to be a resolution to this dispute. We now need to see a fair base price being quoted by processors. While many are legitimately arguing that the price cannot be discussed, there is no legitimate argument not to look to secure a margin for farmers who are producing a premium product, not just for the Irish market, but for the European beef market as well. I thought it was very interesting the interview that Cormac Keeley of Meat Industry Ireland did with Sean O'Rourke earlier today. Cormac Keeley said that the industry was paying €3.60 a kilo for R-grade cattle, which is the base reference price. He pointed out that that €3.60 per kilo was what was the EU average at present. But on the ground, across this country, farmers are only being quoted at €3.45 a kilo for R3 grade cattle today. That's 15 cents a kilo less than their representative said on the national radio this morning is the EU average and what farmers should be getting at the moment. Minister, the fact is that we need a legal floor to be put in place for the base price for beef. Each week, the European Union publish beef carcass prices, and the EU average should be used as the benchmark in relation to the base price quoted to farmers in this country. That would be the very first step that is needed in bringing about price transparency for cattle. And at least farmers could then relate to that where there is a clear black and white figure being provided in relation to what return is coming back across Europe to the processors here. In light of that distinct lack of information on margins in the processing sector, or the farmer's share of the carcass price received on EU markets by processors, including the volumes and the values of specific cuts, there is now an urgent need for measures to be taken to provide that beef price transparency right across the supply chain. As an interim measure, Minister, I would suggest to you that you would ask your colleague, the Minister for Business, Enterprise and Innovation, to, under Section 10 subsection 4 of the Competition and Consumer Protection Act of 2014 requests the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission to carry out a market study and an analysis of the nature and scale of consumer and beef farmer issues in the beef market and make recommendations as appropriate. And yes, people have rightly been critical of the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission here in the House tonight. But there are mechanisms where the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission can actually be used to benefit farmers, to benefit consumers, and to bring about a level of transparency in relation to the beef sector here in this country. And that is under section 10, subsection 4 of the legislation. And I would ask you, Minister, to ensure that Minister Humphreys directs the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission to do something for Irish farmers instead of continually threatening Irish farmers, as has been the case up to now. From my own research, it clearly shows, regardless of what share the farmer is getting in relation to the carcass, over the last 15 years, year on year, the farmers' share in relation to the beef that they produce is reducing by 1.7% their margin. This cannot continue any longer, and the tools are there to have an investigation carried out, and I think that that investigation needs to start before the end of this week. Finally, Minister, I think there is the need to look at new innovative technology that could help to rebalance the situation in terms of what the farmer's share is in the final beef product. The Department of Agriculture should immediately convene a cross-sector implementation group to establish a publicly owned and controlled national beef supply blockchain, which has the potential to transform the beef supply chain by reducing production costs, emissions, and allowing farmers to receive a premium return for beef while providing consumers with greater confidence in the beef that they consume. If this doesn't happen, the processors will bring forward this blockchain and they will increase the stranglehold that they already have on the industry today. Thank you.